Since changing the name of the Eclectic Americana Friday morning drive time radio show on January 20th, 1989 to the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club, the DJs in the collective have strived to entertain and inform our listeners. Airing from 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific at KZSC 88.1 FM in Santa Cruz, California, the Bushwhackers usually have 2 interviews a week, each airing for about half an hour. We're not afraid to ask questions or admit that we don't know something, and we don't mind taking deep dives or following a tangent as we get into how sausage is made in local, county, or state politics, or learning about things going on in our community, or discussions with artists. Our interviews are not scripted and are produced by myself, Dangerous Dan Orange. Pressing that. That. Yeah. Over here, we can say, good morning, KZSC, you're on the air.
Good morning.
29th District, our retiring Assembly member, Mark Stone. Welcome back to the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So your district has been reorganized and reshuffled. Have they called the election for the person who's going to be taking over for the majority of the district that you represented?
Yes. Yeah. So, well, the district that I represent for about 2 more weeks, if that, doesn't really exist anymore. There are 2 districts that were created out of this area now. So Santa Cruz is going to be represented by 3 members of the Assembly, which seems a little bit nuts since it's the smallest county in the state. But yes, Gail Pellerin, who is now will be the 28th Assembly District, which is northern Santa Cruz County, and then over the hill, Los Gatos, San Jose, down to Morgan Hill, and then Don Addis, southern part of Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, all the way down into San Luis Obispo County, and then the Watsonville area still, and that really hasn't changed much, is represented by Robert Rivas, who's an existing Assembly member. But Don Addis and Gail Pellerin will be the new ones, and yeah, they're in.
But, okay, so not only is it crazy that the smallest county in the state is represented by 3 people in the Assembly, but if I understand things correctly, there was a closed-door leadership meeting, and Robert Rivas is in line to take charge of the Assembly?
Yes, there wasn't. Well, it was a caucus meeting. Every year, within 3 days of the election, the Assembly has to get together and reaffirm its Speaker, the leader of the House. And that is usually just a pro forma, it's a lunch and a lot of happy speeches and whatever. This year was a little bit more dramatic because there's been an ongoing tussle between Robert Rivas and current Speaker Anthony Rendon. Rendon will term out in 2024, so he terms out anyway in 2 years, and he's been Speaker now for 6, I think, years, and the longest-serving Speaker since Willie Brown. Wow. And so Robert, with all this hoopla and nonsense at that meeting, the 2 of them struck a deal that Robert will take over I think the 1st of July, and Rendon will be there until the end of June. So yeah, Robert sounds like will be I don't know if I don't know the status of the vote or whatever. There needs to be a vote by the House, so that'll all have to get orchestrated. But that sounds fairly certain then that Rob will take over in July 1.
Got it. And the importance of the Speaker of the House is they are the primary traffic cop?
They are the primary nose wiper, complaint listener. Yeah. But the speaker decides, as long as the speaker is the speaker, decides unilaterally what committees you're on, whether or not you chair a committee, what role you play in leadership, if any, which office you have, which seat you have on the floor. The speaker controls a lot of your life, if you will, in the legislature. Yeah.
Does that spot on the floor mean anything?
Yes and no. So when I first got up there, for example, the speaker, and I'm not quite sure why, but did not like me and figured I was this wacky left-winger coming out of Santa Cruz. So he did something that he thought was funny and put me with a Republican on the floor. But I actually got along really well with the Republican. We never voted the same. We had real disagreements.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I enjoyed sitting next to him. We had some great conversations and about other things, and that worked out just fine. And I was the only assembly member. Well, we were the only sort of mix. Usually the desk pairs are all either Republicans or Democrats, but because there was an odd number of Democrats and odd number of Republicans, there needed to be one sort of mixed seat, if you will. And he thought that was funny, but I thought it was great. And that was the only bipartisan seat pair for those 2 years in the assembly, and worked out perfectly fine for me. So sometimes speakers play games like that with who you're sitting next to, and sometimes not. There are a couple of seats that are the speaker usually has a specific seat in the back on the aisle, and the Republican leader is on the aisle in the front, and the majority leader is on the aisle in the front. So those are because there's they perform functions within the House, but the rest of it, no. And I had a great seat in the way back, which I love. I love being in the back.
You can fall asleep and nobody notices
everything in front of me. And I was always the back of the classroom kid anyway.
There you go.
It worked out really well. And I had, some good seatmates, some bad seatmates, but the last number of them that I've had have been really excellent. In fact, Brian Daly, the Republican who ran against Newsom in this last election, was my seatmate for quite a while. And he and I are very good friends. And I enjoyed sitting with him. And he and I would argue, but in the best sense of the word, all the time about policy. We come at things very differently, but I learned from him. He learned from me. And that kind of conversation, I think, is missing in political discourse these days.
Everywhere.
And
everywhere.
He and I they're still friends. I didn't vote for him for governor, but he's actually a smart, very capable man.
If you're just joining us, folks, we're talking to retiring 29th District Assembly Member Mark Stone. I'm looking back at my notes, looking at history. In 1998, you were elected to the Scotts Valley School Board, where you served for 5 years. Judge McAdams appointed you to replace Almquist on the Board of Soups, and you were there for 9.
No, that was Gray Davis.
Judge
McAdams was appointed.
That's right.
Court, leaving a space on the local Superior Court, and then Almquist was appointed to the bench, leaving a vacancy on the Board of Supervisors. And Gray Davis, on his way out the door, appointed me to be supervisor. That was November of 2003. And in fact, I have that document.
Priceless.
But here's why. There are 3 names on that document, the appointment document. There was Gray Davis, the governor who appointed me, Kevin Shelley, who was then Secretary of State, and me. And the reason I have it is there are 2 of those 3 names left political life under clouds. One was recalled. One was Kevin Shelley, if you remember, was driven out of office. So for me, it was always a reminder of, but for the grace of God go I.
So when did you start up as an assembly member?
In December of 2012.
Got it. So, Gentleman Jim sends in a question here. And folks, if you text to 831-459-4036, by some miracle of technology that we don't understand because it's the same number that Mark Stone is talking to us on, it will appear on the screen in front of me. Gentleman Jim says, will you run for county supervisor when you come back home? The county needs you.
No, thank you. That is very, very kind, but no. Definitely no. I am not running for anything ever again.
Really?
I cannot tell you how happy that makes me.
Wow. But perhaps you'll be appointed? Or I mean, we tried to put your feet to the fire last time. Now, with retirement just weeks away, what's your next chapter? You're going to go back into training and swim the English Channel again?
No, probably not that. But yeah, I am not planning anything.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
Which is the people I know who have retired, and at my age, I know a lot of people who've retired. The ones who've done the best don't set large expectations for themselves when they leave. They just leave, kind of figure it out. So I'm hoping I'll get bored a little bit and then figure out what I want to do. And then it'll be what I want to do, not what I feel I need to do.
Okay, well, Mark Stone, you serve on the Judiciary Committee. You're chair of that. You serve on Banking and Finance, Budget, Human Services, which includes Child Welfare, and Natural Resources. First question, which one of those will you miss the most?
None. What I will miss, I will tell you, what I will miss the most are the staffers. We were very fortunate to put together a great team, both. So I oversaw 3 sets of staff: district staff, capital staff, committee staff. And we operated all 3 as a team, as kind of a unit. And I will miss the people I was blessed to work with. Those are the folks I'm going to miss. And even on the other committees, some of the other committees, the staff I've got to know very well over the years. And even as a chair, it's always helpful in the rough and tumble world of the politics to have somebody on the committee who is willing to ask tough questions, who kind of knows what's going on, knows the direction of policy, is in contact with the chair, but mostly with the staff. That's sort of how the communications happen, and sort of be a bit of a foil and push back. And then the chair, it helps the chair negotiate. I always had people like that, and I often provide that role on other committees that I sit on. And that, so have gotten to know the staff in working with them over the years. And it's really some of the people up there that I will miss the most. The institution, no. The way it works, no.
Right.
But the staffers up there who are intelligent, very capable, and sometimes long-suffering, but there's some really good folks up there.
Okay. Well, so there. One of the things I love about our interviews, and I've looked back over years of our notes, Mark, is that, you help us learn how sausage is made. And so what I just mentioned were the 5 standing committees that you're on. And as you explained it, those are committees that deal with policies and bills. It's the primary work of the legislature. They deal with specific subject matter. Bills get assigned to these committees that people submit. Okay, so you learned about that. You taught us about the suspense file. Mm-hmm. Which remind me, the suspense file is at the end of the term. It's everything that hasn't been voted on yet that has some money attached to it.
Yes, it's anything that requires money to be spent goes to the Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee then decides, essentially the chair, decide if it's de minimis enough to just let it out, and then they'll just let it out and it goes on its merry way to the floor. Or if it goes to the suspense file, and the suspense file then is a place where all these bills are collected, and then the chair decides which ones get out and which ones don't get out. And they're ideally managing money and ensuring that all the bills coming out to the floor only spend a certain amount of money. But obviously there's a lot of politics involved, and some bills go on the suspense file that actually don't cost much. Some come off the suspense file costing lots of money and potentially problematic. It's a gambit. But generally, the appropriations, any bill that is fiscal, that spends money, will go to appropriations. And then appropriations decides if it's de minimis or is suspended, so it goes to the suspense file. Mm-hmm. And then the committee looks at the aggregate of all of those bills, I think sort of decides how much money they're going to spend, and then decides which ones survive and which ones don't.
Got it. And you taught us about gut and amend. You and John Laird taught us about this. And this is when, so all bills have to be submitted initially like the third week in January, and then they officially have to be submitted by the third week in February, and that's it. And so what happens if something comes up during the legislative year? Well, we found out through the Watsonville Hospital that you folks up in Sacramento occasionally submit bills that you have no intention of ever doing anything with, but they've been submitted. And so when something comes up like the Watsonville Hospital bankruptcy, they are gutted and amended, taking out all the words and putting in all new words, and then it moves through the legislature that way. Did I get gut and amend correct?
Yes, and gut and amend is a term that interestingly the newspapers threw at the legislature because they hate it when the legislature does that. And I don't disagree with that, actually. Although I have used that. Officially, it's a substantially amended bill. Everybody's sort of obfuscating or kind of hiding it. But yeah, a bill as it's moving through gets amended. And it can get amended any time. There's nothing that prevents a bill from being completely amended, meaning what you said, every single word taken out and a whole bunch of new words being put in. And in its best form, and where I've used it, is I've got bills moving, and then come July, when I can't introduce more, the city of Santa Cruz or the county of Santa Cruz, county of Monterey, somebody comes in and says, oh my gosh, we have to fix this. Well, okay. Then I either have a bill that's not moving, or have a bill that I didn't really like very much, or something was going on, and I will then strip that bill of its language and put in the new language. I need to get, in the Senate, you have to get permission of the pro tem, the leader of the Senate. In the Assembly, it's a little bit easier to do, but it gets re-referred to the appropriate committee, and there's a whole rigmarole. In its worst sense, it gets used as a strategy where if a bill is potentially controversial, it's a game that gets played where an innocuous bill is introduced and run through and then amended late once it's in the other house. And the reason that gets done is it doesn't have, in the House of Origin, because the bill then is amended in the second house, when it comes back to the first house, it's just an up or down vote. And it doesn't always get the scrutiny that a bill originally introduced into the House will get. So it's a strategy to obfuscate a policy and run something through. And I'll tell you something interesting about that. So the newspaper publishers hate gut and amend, and the newspapers love to write editorials against the legislature when they do gut and amend. But when all that controversy over AB 5, the newspaper publishers wanted out from under AB 5 and wanted their own rule. So when they ran that policy twice, they did this twice, one unsuccessfully, then one successfully. How did they run that policy? They ran that policy that benefited them as gut and amend. They were assembly bills that they gutted and amended, that the author gutted and amended on their behalf in the second house. And so I told them, that's a little bit hypocritical. You're going to bash us for it, and yet you've used it not once, but you've used it twice. And they say, oh, blah, 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 blah. So it is a legitimate strategy. It is not illegal. It is following the rules. There are some mechanisms you have to be careful of with it to make sure that it is successful. And I will tell you, as a chair of a committee, we were constantly watching assembly bills in the Senate for gut and amend, because if there was something that I didn't like, and then an assembly member gutted and amended a bill in the Senate that was coming back to us, we would work with committees in the Senate to make sure they fixed it, or I would make sure we got it when it came back so I could kill it.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it takes some vigilance. It's a mechanism, it's legit, but it takes some vigilance to be looking at what is being done and why and how and what the actual policy is. So we all need to read bills instead of just assuming they are what they are.
So speaking of unsuccessful, can we put a proposition on the ballot to make sure that we never see another proposition on the ballot for kidney dialysis clinics? Like, why is the state being asked to vote about doctors at kidney dialysis clinics? So what's your takeaway from the state election?
The state election, I think, overall was fairly predictable. I mean, that one had been tried in the legislature several times. It's been now tried at the ballot box several times. I don't know. Anybody who can gather signatures can put something on. That's direct democracy. That's the ballot initiative process in California, which is very open. And yeah, I disagree with a lot of it because it just puts a lot of nonsense on, and it ends up being something that somebody who has a lot of money can drive an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also provided some very interesting ballot measures and things that wouldn't otherwise be done. But yeah, this last election, I think, was generally fairly predictable. I didn't see, there's a county supervisor race in Santa Cruz right now that is down to the wire.
It is.
And that's not a surprise that it was down to the wire.
Well, they're two great
Everything
candidates, and I'm sure it's going to a recount.
Yeah.
So go on.
Yeah. So but other than that, statewide, I was watching a bunch of races. Nothing to me that was ultimately too surprising.
So, with your last couple of weeks left, are you working on writing down notes for the people who are, Gail Pellerin, who's coming into the assembly on, Gail, this is what I recommend that you do, or watch out for this, or are you packing up the memorabilia, or you thinking about all the legislation that you've passed and kind of what you're most proud of? Where are you?
Oh, throwing a lot of stuff away, memorabilia. Good Lord, it just accumulated so much junk. No, but I've known Gail a long time, and we've been talking all the way through this. And even I've gotten to know Don Adams, who will represent the rest of the county to the south, and then all the way down into San Luis Obispo County. And I don't weigh in unless asked, and sometimes I have way too much to say about stuff. But they've been asking questions. I've been trying to help them out. The reality of it is, when I got everybody's career as a legislator is different. And it's like giving parental advice. That as a parent, if I give parental advice, it has to do more about me than somebody else. And everything that I say as a legislator really needs to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt, because their experience is going to be different. And they need to hire good staff. They need to listen to staff. They need to work with people who can and will help them in Sacramento, and then set up good functions in the district office. And then where it goes from there, I mean, they keep asking me, is there anything you want us to continue on? No. Find your own thread. Find your own passion, what it is you want to do. Take that forward, because that's where you as a legislator will be successful, is figuring out what you want to do. I was lucky I got to do what I went up there to do.
Well, did you pick which committees you ended up serving on, or is that something that gets handed out when you're out of the room taking a call or a bio break?
No, we're asked which committees we want to sit on, and we put together a list.
I got you.
And we do or don't get what we asked for. I got all of what I asked for, essentially. And then when I was brand new up there 10 years ago, there was a little committee that nobody wanted. Nobody likes. People don't want to be chair of it. They think it's insignificant. And the speaker said, "You want to be chair of this?" Nobody else does. And again, for some reason, he didn't really like me much. So I don't think this was a great recommendation. But it's the Human Services Committee. Heck yes, that's one of the main reasons I went to the legislature. So I've been chair of a committee. I chaired Human Services for 2 years, and then for the next 8, Judiciary Committee. I've been fortunate to chair committees the whole time. And so I got pretty much what I wanted, and I've worked those same committees the whole time I've been up there.
So we got about 2 or 3 minutes left, Assemblymember Mark Stone. Memories or particular legislation that you're proud of, or things that you've done? Or there's an incredibly long list. Where do you start? If you had an elevator speech with Biden right now, the question is, what would you say?
I think in the end, 2 things that I'm most proud of, and one are the reforms I was able to do. Working with the administration, we reformed the child welfare system, which was a number of bills, a long process. Reformed the state bar in the way that they function, and we're now there's a mechanism that we put in place to deal with the Commission on Judicial Performance. And the second piece that I think I'm most proud of is having chaired committees, I had an influence on a lot of bills that will never have my name on them, and nobody really knows that. But we fixed a lot of things, we stopped a lot of things, we improved a lot of things. And that's outcomes for people in California, outcomes for people who typically don't have voices in the process. Really work to try to make things better. That's what I'm most proud of, is being able to do all those kinds of things.
LC popped in and said, what about your work on internet in rural areas? We have 30 seconds.
Oh, Lord, that's been a major frustration, but there's now a lot of money that's being put into it. The question is whether it's going to be spent in the right way. And I'm still not sure if we're just going to be laying a bunch of fiber everywhere we can, or looking at developing technologies to get internet to the right kinds of places. But we will always be fighting the large incumbent providers who have cherry-picked the best places to make money and don't care about the rest. And it's up to California to ensure broad distribution of broadband services.
Well, 29th District retiring Assembly Member Mark Stone, we've had you on practically monthly, years and years and years now. We are looking forward to getting you back and in the studio when you're not elected and you can speak your mind freely.
Okay, we'll do that.
Be well and take care. Great talking to you, Mark Stone. Enjoy retirement. We are going to get you back in the studio. You've been listening to a podcast from an interview on the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club on KZSC 88.1 FM in Santa Cruz, California. This interview has been produced by myself, Dangerous Dan Orange. KZSC is a student-run college and community non-commercial educational radio station broadcasting from the UC Santa Cruz campus. You can stream KZSC online at kzsc.org. Thanks for listening.